Welcome back, friends. Here I am in the kitchen again, and I've got to tell you, I've become so inspired by some of my new recipes that I'm writing my own cookbook. I'm thinking about calling it Kitchen Intuition, or maybe Tony's Transcendental Treats. Okay, I'm not sure, but the name isn't important now. What's important is that I felt inspired to come up with brand new recipes. And I feel like this cookbook is a project that really taps into my passion. I could go on, but we should really get down to business. We've come to an end of our journey with Transcendentalism, and it's time to recap our unit. In today's video, we'll review the tenets and the times, the writers and their works, and the impacts of the ideas that define this movement. Then I'll introduce you to this week's culminating project and go over the lesson agenda. The project is going to be a little bit different than anything we've done before, but hey, what better way to close out our unit on Transcendentalism than by doing something totally new and innovative? Transcendentalism first showed up in about 1830 as an outgrowth of Romanticism, and the movement lasted until about 1860. We know that this was a period of time when America was moving from an agrarian society to a manufacturing economy, and in part, Transcendentalism was a reaction to this change. Transcendentalists rejected materialism and instead were very focused on spirituality. They placed great value in the individual's direct relationship with God and with nature. As a matter of fact, they believed the divine spirit permeated all living things, even people. So that made them very idealistic and led them to believe that mankind is inherently good. They theorized that the things in this physical world were just reflections of the perfect ideas that existed on a spiritual plane. Transcendentalists believe we need to transcend the material world and seek intangible ideas like beauty, truth, and spirituality because they claimed those are the things that are actually real, even though we don't perceive them with our five senses. This is some heavy intellectual stuff, but the 19th century gave us some really heavy thinkers. Let's review the Transcendentalists we met during this unit. First, there's Ralph Waldo Emerson. Emerson was the most important figure in this movement. He was a poet, lecturer, essayist, and philosopher who is often referred to as the founding father of Transcendentalism. His essay, Self-Reliance, is considered a foundational work of transcendental philosophy. And then there was Henry David Thoreau. Remember him? He was a poet, essayist, and naturalist who lived out his transcendentalist philosophy by moving to a cabin on Walden Pond. His classic book, Walden, chronicles his experience with nature, and his essay, Civil Disobedience, has influenced generations of activists. Then we met Walt Whitman. Talk about an innovator! Besides being a journalist and essayist, he was a poet who broke with tradition and created poetry in free verse style. His book, Leaves of Grass, remains an American classic. We also met the enigmatic Emily Dickinson, a poet who created her very own style. She wrote nearly 1,800 poems, but rarely strayed far from her Amherst, Massachusetts home, and most of her work was published after her death. No study of Transcendentalism would be complete without Amos Bronson Alcott. He was known for being an innovative educator and tried to create a utopian community called Fruitlands. He also published a book called Concord Days, a collection of writings about his personal ideas and about his time living among fellow Transcendentalists. And finally, we were introduced to Margaret Fuller. She was an early leader of the women's rights movement, was the first woman to serve as a foreign war correspondent, and was the author of the groundbreaking feminist book, Woman in the 19th Century. What did all of these authors have in common? Well, they were all wary of materialism and believed that ultimate reality existed in ideas. They believed that a divine spirit permeated all living things, and they believed in the inherent goodness of mankind. They were idealists, and they believed in the power of intuition. And with all that idealism and intuition, these transcendentalists were innovators. An innovator is someone who has the capacity to forge new pathways of knowledge, to introduce new methods, ideas, or products. An innovator questions the conventional ways of thinking or doing and asks, what if we did something new and different? Innovators are pioneers, and not unlike the 19th century pioneers who explored and settled Western territories. Transcendentalists were pioneers of new ideas. Alcott with education and lifestyle, Fuller with women's rights, Whitman and Dickinson with poetry, Emerson with religion and philosophy, and Thoreau with civil disobedience. They combined intellect, passion, and intuition, and they blazed new trails. This week, as we wrap up our unit on Transcendentalism, you are going to become an innovator. You'll review the people, works, and ideas that shaped Transcendentalism and complete a personal innovation project. You'll have your PDF to guide you through each day's activities this week. Today, you'll review Transcendentalism and our unit's text and vocabulary. On day 2, you'll read over a list of ideas for your personal innovation project. The ideas fall into the categories of community, technology and gaming, art, music, writing, theater, gardening, cooking, sewing, and sports. Find an idea that taps into your passions and fills a need you've recognized. You'll be asked to consider some guiding questions and select your personal innovation project. Make sure you have access to the materials you need, and make sure you've received any permissions required before moving forward with your project. It's a good idea to select a second option, a plan B in case plan A isn't working out. Once you've made your decision, you'll design your plan. On day 3, you'll review some process reminders and you'll work on your personal innovation project. On day 4, you'll read over some project reminders and continue working on your project. And then on day 5, you'll complete and share your personal innovation project. Depending on the nature of the project, that might mean sharing it with an individual or group, performing for an audience, or involving others in an interactive experience. And to finish things off and earn some gold, a rubric is included for evaluating your project. Keep in mind that as your PDF guides you through your process each day, you will also have daily online practice to review the authors, works, and ideas that we've studied during this unit. And on day 5, you'll take a final online assessment to close out Unit 3. As we've learned about the innovative thinkers who carried the torch of Transcendentalism between the years of 1830 and 1860, I've been inspired to combine my intuition with my passion for cooking to create some new recipes. This week, you'll see where inspiration and intuition lead you as you become an innovator.